Hi, and welcome to the talk today. This is going to be a session, the first public session, all about our cloud gaming platform here at Facebook. And if you've come to check this out, likely you work with a game developer or you're involved in publishing games, and we're really happy to have you here today. My name is Mike Arcuri. I'm the product lead for cloud gaming, and I've been working with the team for about a year and a half, from the kind of earliest tech demos to the first public releases and tests in certain cities to where we are today, which I'll explain in a few minutes. Our agenda today is going to start with a description of the products that our platform provides, why those products could be valuable to you and your gaming business. And we're going to actually do demos that I recorded, on my own devices in my house, so you can see what the experience is like for yourself. We'll talk about how people discover and interact with cloud games and cloud ads. And then we're actually going to kind of summarize what the value proposition, the amount of work that's involved in porting your game to our platform, and talk about what's coming next and where we're going to bring the platform in the near future. There are two main products that we support today. One is full free-to-play cloud games that can be accessed instantly from any device by anyone using Facebook. And when I say anyone using Facebook, I do mean currently in certain regions of the world, and I do mean on certain device types. Today we're live in browsers, mobile browsers, desktop browsers, and in Facebook for Android. And these full games give the player the full experience of great free-to-play games. Touch controls on a phone, networking and interaction with other players on the back end, account continuity between playing on Facebook and playing the same game off Facebook. All these features are just there, ready to go at people's fingertips. Now, the second product that we support is a cloud playable ads format. And if you work in the industry, you're probably very familiar with HTML playable ads already. But what we found is that HTML playable ads, they don't work for every game. Not every game experience can be represented well in HTML. And that sometimes we get kind of an ad template for an HTML interactive ad that's not really indicative of the true gaming experience. So with cloud playable ads, you can put forward the full fidelity, full richness of your game experience, create a short version of that to engage players right away. So one of the first things that often comes up when I talk to game developers about our cloud platform is the experience, the quality of the experience. How much lag is there? How does it feel to play? Will this swipe gesture work? Can you control steering in real time in a racing game? The true answer to this question is that the mileage does vary with the network, right? It's obvious, but it's true. Some people have blazing fast Wi-Fi or hardline connections. Other people are on kind of spotty phone data connections with only a couple bars right now. But in general, we are using kind of the data that's available to us to deliver great games to quite a large percentage of Facebook players in the geographic areas that we support. And those players are having a good time. All right, so this first demo is from a game I really like. It's called Asphalt 9. It's a racing game optimized for mobile, long history of the franchise where they've done several sequels. And this demo was recorded, on an Android phone that's over 3 years old. On a 4G LTE network in a mid-sized city here in the United States. Yeah, so here we're off to the races, and I'm using this touch drive control system to change lanes, to hit ramps like the jump here, and to control that boost, that nitro meter at the top. And you can see cars crashing and flipping and, really high visual quality, really great audio kind of pounding in the background. Just really comes together as like a high production value mobile game. And yeah, I'm able to, I lose my first position here, but I'm able to kind of regain, hit tricks off the jumps and control my car as well as I need to win this race. So yeah, definitely no shortage of fun, no like lag that gets in the way of my experience. And again, not the best hardware, older phone, older chipset, and I'm still able to win this race. And this is one of 50 or 60 races that I've won in Asphalt 9. It's just really a lot of fun, and works well in the cloud environment. Cool. And the next game that I want to look at here is a game with a great art style. It's an idle RPG based on all the characters that exist in a popular MOBA game called Mobile Legends Bang Bang. So this game is Mobile Legends Adventure. And let's see what the experience is like on cloud. The battles in this game are, pretty much fire and forget in a way. Like the players keep attacking, they keep defending automatically. But what you have to do in terms of active management is execute those special attacks. And you can see one here with the full screen art and full screen animation and zooms in on the hero. And so it's just this great kind of live anime battle experience. But this is a game that's a ton of fun, but also like pretty grindy. Like you jump in, you play for 5 minutes, you're going to level up some equipment at the end of that session. You're going to level up a character at the end of that session. You're going to open a new crystal and maybe get a new hero at the end of that session. And so just this great kind of repeat play loop and play cycle. And this is a game where, probably invested too many hours and leveled up my squad to 160 or something like that, with a pretty flattening a progression curve that flattens pretty well, pretty quickly in the hundreds. So yeah, like no issues at all, like no audio quality issues or video quality issues. This was recorded on a very typical work laptop, no fancy hardware. It was on cable Wi-Fi in my house, delivered by your average cable provider, no fiber or anything like that. So yeah, these are two demos now that you've seen on pretty typical equipment, not the highest end phone, not 5G, not fiber, and the experiences are good. And I'm not, the only one having fun with these games, as we're going to talk about in a minute. Thousands of people every day, millions of people every month are enjoying these titles. The next question that developers often ask after, how good is the experience for players and can I provide a good experience for my game? The next question is almost always, how do people discover games? How do people find games on Facebook? And I'm happy to say that more and more we're building discovery surfaces and discovery units. And what you can see on screen here is an example of an Asphalt 9 discovery unit that shows up in the newsfeed. And as we work with game partners, in many cases, we are able to do some kind of promotion jointly with the partner. We also have, the games tab. We have the Play Games hub on www.facebook.com, and players come back to these surfaces every day, every week, and we have promotional units, editorial units here, where the most exciting, the newest games, the games that have gotten recent updates, major updates, we're able to, highlight them in hero surfaces, hero units sometimes. We're able to run background video rolls, toward the top of our surfaces and really just drive awareness and drive exposure of high quality titles. And then on top of that, we're creating a brand new type of surface that we call the Games Hub. And the Game Hub is unique to every title, and it aggregates all the interesting activity around that game. So this could include official posts from the game's page. It includes connections to the highest quality groups where people are discussing and kind of forming camaraderie about the game. It includes videos that have been recorded, live streams. Of course, it's got a way to play the game. And so these hubs can not just be visited by our end users, but they can also be favorited and followed. And as people favorite and follow game hubs, they see more and more content related to games in their newsfeed. And from any of that game-related content, they can decide, you know what, I really do like this game. I'm going to play again today. So hopefully this answers a few questions about game discovery and game promotion and how people experience games on Facebook. In terms of, how real is this all today? Like, what scale are we at? There's some numbers I can share. One is we have over 1.5 million people playing cloud games every month. So even though we just really formally announced our beta maybe 6 months ago, and we have a couple dozen games live, not 100 yet, a couple dozen. We're still kind of building up that title library quickly. 1.5 million players already engaging with the games and having a good time. We're working with some really great companies already, and this is by no means the full list of logos of partners, but these are some partners who are already live on our platform. Several of them with multiple titles. We have a lot more kind of great energy and, I guess you could call it ports, but kind of the integrations, the onboarding of more games in progress right now as we speak. What should you expect? We've talked about expanding our title list and our library of games. And that's going to happen pretty rapidly. So we're going to go from, a few dozen to like 100 to multiple hundreds of cloud games. And, we're not just focused on cloud technology. We also have an HTML5 platform that's going to continue to grow and the same kind of attention and the same kind of focus on quality. We're going to continue to make improvements to some of the growth mechanisms and in terms of usage and utilization. And the main two vectors here are, improved ads efficiency so that you can do straight user acquisition right to your cloud games. And also social mechanisms so that you can grow from a user-to-user basis through multiplayer modes, through events, through tournaments, through gifting, through help requests. Mechanisms that have meaning in game and that walk the correct line. They're not spamming people in newsfeed, but they are encouraging people who want to play to get together and play and enjoy themselves. So in terms of summarizing, like what's the value proposition here as a game developer or game publisher, why should you seriously consider bringing your game to Facebook Cloud? It's really two things, right? One is you come to Facebook to get more users and earn more money, right? Your free-to-play game is already succeeding off platform, off Facebook. That's great. You can engage different players, new players on Facebook. And what we're seeing right now is really surprisingly high and exciting incrementality, where the games that have come to Facebook already are engaging almost, all new users on platform. It's really cool. But the other half of the value comes down to your user acquisition strategy, your user retention and re-engagement strategy, how you deal with your churned users and resurrect churned users over time. And because there's no install, right? It's just fast. You just wait a few seconds, you play the game, you have a great time, you come back tomorrow, you play again, maybe you make your first purchase. You can look for those efficiencies on acquiring new users less expensively. And then you can, create long-term relationships where some of those best users, the users who are in the alliances, the multi-time spenders, et cetera, where you're going to really engage with those users over a long period of time in your native game, which is download, which does have more friction, more waiting, but maybe ultimately provides a slightly better experience because there's no lag at all, because push notifications work slightly differently, and et cetera, right? So we're agnostic. We want to be your partner in building and growing your audience and ultimately helping your game business succeed. And sometimes that's going to mean acquiring people directly to Facebook or resurrecting churned users to re-engage with the game on Facebook. And sometimes it's going to mean, creating a long-term relationship in the downloaded version of your title. And either way is fine. Like the palette, these are tools, and the palette is open to you to improve your overall efficiency by making use of the new ad formats and the new instant play techniques. So if that sounds interesting to you, like, of course you would want to get that kind of value, new players for your game, more efficient user acquisition. What's involved? Like, how much work are we talking about here? And I'm happy to say that it's been our design point from the get-go to make it simple and easy for game developers to come to Facebook too. You don't have to design for Facebook from the get-go. You don't have to rewrite half your game to do it. Really just 4 or 5 things that are necessary. You do have to make use of Facebook login for games. And many of you are already familiar with that because you've used Facebook Connect or Facebook login in the past. You do have to use the Facebook in-app purchases API, but we've designed this in such a way that it's very much compatible with other kind of industry-leading app stores in the way they define in-app purchases. So yeah, there's a little bit of testing, of course, in the cloud environment, a few dependencies that might need to be removed. Sometimes we change a compression setting on textures or something to make sure frame rates are good. But generally we're talking about 6 weeks of work, give or take, for like 2 part-time developers in a game studio in terms of the kind of boarding process. And if you're onboarding to the Cloud Playable Ads, really what we're talking about is making a module or a section within your typically your mobile game that is optimized for the ad experience. You can use the same tool chain that your studio team used to make the full game. You can use the same assets that are already in the game. You can upload the same packages that you're releasing to the App Store. Yeah, all right. So we talked about why come to cloud. Ideally you're looking for games that people can pick up and enjoy relatively quickly, right? Where your typical play session, where 15 minutes is enough to accomplish something. We are open to a lot of game categories and genres. And we've traditionally had strength with categories like card, board, casino, match 3, social simulation. But more and more we're trying action games. We're doing RPG, strategy, and expanding kind of the player base on Facebook to larger and larger audiences. And obviously the game should have appeal in the regions where we're live. So that starts with North America. If you do have a premium game, and a lot of the industry is still premium, that's great. There are a lot of great titles. Check out the ads format. Like, you still need to, drive awareness. You still need to acquire players, and a cloud playable ad format could be really beneficial for premium games. And the other thing that you're looking for is kind of the games that can benefit the most from Facebook. And there are 2 ways that games benefit the most from Facebook. One is it's a kind of game where a community forms around it. So people like to discuss the game. There are maybe creators streaming the game, or creating video how-to guides. There are active memes being posted about changes in the game, or what happened last month, or the new content updates, or the new characters that are available. Games with these active communities can really benefit from being live on Facebook because deeper connections can be formed between these community discussions, the content that's game related, and playing the game itself. And the other kind of game that can benefit the most is a game that is social by nature. And so this might mean a game with a guild or club system. It might mean a game that has one-on-one multiplayer, either asynchronous or synchronous. It could be a game that has small group multiplayer, right? There are ways to use kind of Facebook features and mechanisms to grow from player to player and to enable people to not just play with strangers, but to play with people they know, people who are in the same groups, part of their same communities, or people who they're directly friends with and have known before. And so these are the types of games that we see take off the fastest, right? There's a community embedded, or there's social mechanism that's a great fit for Facebook friends and Facebook groups. And then these games can can find their way to growth the fastest that way. I guess the last thing I have to say is we're looking for more partners to work with us right now. We're working with a lot of companies right now. And if you think you have a game that would work great for this, or you're excited about what you hear today, do come to our website, do express your interest. And we have a partnerships team that's kind of standing by and working with lots of industry players. And we'd love to hear from you. Thank you, and have a good day.